a lone soldier navigating a dangerous mountain pass high above a valley cloaked in mist. The air is thin, the path is treacherous, and every step is a gamble. But just as he rounds a bend, something stops him dead in his tracks. There, clinging to the edge of a crumbling cliff, is an enormous bear. Its paws scrape helplessly at the rocky ledge, its chest heaving as it struggles to hold on. The soldier's instincts kick in. What happens next is a story of courage, compassion, and a twist that no one saw coming. The soldier, a man trained for war, finds himself in an unexpected battle. This time, not against an enemy, but against nature itself. The bear is massive, its thick fur matted with dirt and scratches. Its claws, meant for climbing trees and catching fish, are now useless against the sheer rock face. The soldier could have walked away. After all, what could he, a single man, do against the forces of gravity and the bear's sheer size? But something about the animal's desperate struggle tugged at his heart. Perhaps it was the way it looked at him, eyes wide with fear and exhaustion. Or perhaps it was a deeper sense of duty, a call to protect all life, not just human. The soldier acted quickly. He scanned the area, searching for anything that could help. His training in survival and resourcefulness kicked in. He had a rope, a carabiner, and a few other tools in his kit. He secured the rope to a sturdy tree, double-checked the knot, and prepared himself to descend. Every movement was calculated. The soldier knew one wrong step could send him, and the bear, plummeting into the abyss. But he didn't hesitate. He lowered himself slowly, inch by inch, until he was within arm's reach of the bear. As the soldier approached, the bear froze. It was terrified but too weak to resist. For a moment, man and beast locked eyes. The soldier whispered softly, his voice steady and calming, trying to reassure the animal. This was no ordinary rescue. This was a moment of trust between two beings who, under normal circumstances, would be enemies. The soldier's voice carried a strange sense of comfort, as if he was telling the bear, "I'm here to help. Trust me." The soldier worked quickly. He fashioned a makeshift harness from the rope and managed to secure it around the bear's torso. The animal, sensing that this man was its only hope, remained still. But the weight of the bear was immense. Even with his strength and training, the soldier struggled to pull both himself and the animal back up the cliff. Every pull on the rope felt like a battle against the mountain itself. The soldier's muscles burned, his breath came in short gasps, and the bear's weight threatened to drag them both down, but he didn't give up. Inch by inch, he hauled them both upward, defying the odds. When they finally reached the top, the soldier collapsed onto the ground, exhausted but triumphant. The bear, now free, stood up on its hind legs. For a moment, the soldier froze. Was this how it ended? After all that effort, was the bear about to attack? But what happened next left the soldier stunned. Instead of aggression, the bear let out a low, rumbling sound, a sound that seemed almost like gratitude. It didn't run away. It didn't attack. It simply stood there, looking at the soldier as if it understood what had just happened. The bear moved closer and the soldier held his breath. But instead of attacking, the bear did something extraordinary. It nudged him gently with its nose, almost as if to say thank you before turning and lumbering away into the forest. It was a moment that defied explanation. A bond had formed in the most unlikely of circumstances, a connection that would stay with the soldier for the rest of his life. As the soldier watched the bear disappear into the trees, he couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was more than just a chance meeting. Perhaps it was a test, a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, compassion and courage can bridge the gap between man and nature. As the soldier stood at the edge of the cliff, staring into the forest where the bear had disappeared, he felt a wave of emotions wash over him. Relief, awe, and an overwhelming sense of gratitude. This encounter was unlike anything he had ever experienced, a moment that stripped away the barriers between man and beast, between strength and vulnerability. It wasn't just about saving a life. It was about the courage to act, even when the outcome was uncertain, and the willingness to trust, even in the face of fear. He thought about the bond he had shared with the bear in those fleeting moments. The unspoken trust, the silent understanding, It was as if they had both realized they weren't so different after all. Both of them were survivors, navigating a harsh and unpredictable world, relying on their instincts and sheer will to keep moving forward. And in that moment, on the edge of the cliff, their paths had crossed for a reason. The soldier couldn't help but wonder if the bear would remember him. Would it look back on this moment in whatever way animals remember and feel the same sense of gratitude that he now felt? Or was it simply a fleeting encounter, a brief intersection of two lives on this vast and unpredictable planet? As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, the soldier made a silent promise to himself. He vowed to carry this experience with him, to let it remind him of the power of compassion, the strength in vulnerability, and the incredible things that can happen when we step outside of our comfort zones. Sometimes the greatest acts of bravery aren't found on the battlefield. Sometimes they're found in the quiet moments when we choose to help someone, or something, simply because it's the right thing to do. And as the soldier began his descent from the mountain, the memory of the bear stayed with him, a powerful reminder of the connection that binds all living creatures, no matter how different they may seem. The forest grew quiet once more, the wind carrying the soldier's thoughts into the vast wilderness. Somewhere out there, a bear roamed free, a living testament to a moment of courage and kindness. And for the soldier, this was more than just a rescue. It was a lesson, a story he would carry with him for the rest of his life. As the soldier descended the mountain path, the forest seemed quieter than before. Every rustle of leaves, every distant call of a bird reminded him of how alive this wilderness truly was. Yet, despite the sounds of life around him, his mind remained tethered to the bear. He couldn't shake the image of its massive form, the raw fear in its eyes, and the way it had paused, almost deliberately to acknowledge him before vanishing into the trees. The soldier began to think about the nature of bravery. Was it his military training that had driven him to act? Or was it something more innate, a deep-seated belief in the value of life, no matter how different or dangerous it might seem? He realized that the bear had taught him something profound in its moment of desperation. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in spite of it. Pausing by a stream to quench his thirst, the soldier gazed at his reflection in the water. The man staring back at him looked the same, yet he felt different, changed. This was a new kind of victory, one that didn't come with medals or applause. It was quieter, more personal, yet far more significant. As he rose and continued his journey, he noticed the world around him with fresh eyes. The towering trees, the rustling leaves, even the faint scent of pine. All of it felt more vibrant, more alive. He thought about how many soldiers march through life, focused solely on the mission ahead, often missing the beauty and interconnectedness of the world they fought to protect. It wasn't long before the soldier spotted tracks in the soft earth, fresh ones. They were unmistakably those of the bear. He knelt down, studying them closely. They meandered toward a grove of trees, their depth and spacing suggesting the bear was no longer panicked, but moving with purpose. He wondered where it was headed. Back to its den? To its family? He felt an odd urge to follow, though he knew better than to intrude further into the bear's world. Still, the tracks served as a reminder. The bear's story hadn't ended. Like his own journey, it was ongoing, filled with uncertainty and challenges, yet driven by a primal will to survive. The encounter stirred memories long buried in the soldier's mind. He recalled a time years ago when he had rescued a stray dog in his neighborhood. It had been starving, its ribs visible beneath its matted fur. The young boy he was back then had acted without hesitation, offering the dog scraps of food and water. That simple act of kindness had sparked a bond that lasted years, teaching him early on the value of compassion. Now, as an adult, he realized how those early lessons had shaped him. The bear on the cliff was just another chapter in a lifelong story of choosing empathy over indifference. By the time he reached the edge of the forest, the soldier could see the warm glow of a village in the distance. Civilization was close, yet he felt reluctant to leave the wild behind. The forest, the mountain, the bear, they had shown him something he hadn't felt in years, a profound connection to the world around him and the quiet heroism of simply caring. With each step toward the village, the soldier carried with him a story, not just of bravery, but of the unexpected ways life can remind us of our shared existence. The bear may have needed him in that moment, but perhaps, in some inexplicable way, he had needed the bear just as much. As the soldier neared the village, he couldn't resist turning back to look at the forest one last time. The towering trees stood like silent sentinels, guarding the mysteries within. He wondered if the bear was still nearby, watching him from the shadows. The thought sent a strange shiver through him, not of fear but of awe. It was humbling to know that in the vastness of nature he had shared a fleeting yet profound connection with one of its creatures. Each step toward the village felt heavier, as though he was leaving behind something sacred. In the forest, he had been stripped of titles and roles. He wasn't a soldier, a fighter, or a defender. He was simply a human being, a fellow inhabitant of the earth, playing his part in a story much larger than himself. The sight of the village should have brought relief, but instead, it filled him with a sense of unease. Life here felt so far removed from the raw, untamed wilderness he had just left. Would anyone in the village understand what he had just experienced? Would they believe him if he told them about the bear and the cliff? Or would they dismiss it as just another story from a weary traveler? These thoughts lingered as he crossed the threshold into the village, his boots crunching on the gravel path. The warm glow of lanterns lit his way, and the faint hum of distant voices reminded him that he was back among people. Yet, even as he walked toward the nearest inn, he felt a part of him still lingering in the forest, tethered to the memory of the bear. Inside the inn, the soldier found himself seated near a crackling fire. The warmth should have been comforting, but his thoughts remained distant. Around him, villagers shared stories, laughed, and passed mugs of ale, their voices filling the room with a lively hum. Yet he felt out of place, as though he carried a secret too profound to share. He wanted to tell them what he had seen, what he had done. But where would he begin? How could he explain the look in the bear's eyes, the way it had trusted him in its most vulnerable moment? And would they understand the strange, unshakable feeling that the bear had taught him something he couldn't quite put into words? As he stared into the flames, the soldier's hands tightened into fists, not out of anger, but out of a quiet determination. He realized the story wasn't for the villagers. It was for himself. It wasn't about telling others what had happened, but about carrying the lesson forward, letting it shape the way he moved through the world. Later that night, as he stepped outside to breathe the crisp mountain air, the soldier tilted his head to the sky. The stars stretched endlessly above him, their light piercing through the darkness like tiny beacons of hope. For the first time in a long time, he felt truly small, not in a way that diminished him, but in a way that reminded him of his place in the grand tapestry of life. He thought of the bear again, now free, roaming somewhere in the vast wilderness under the same sky. In its struggle, the bear had shown him a truth he couldn't ignore. Life in all its forms was both fragile and resilient. And just as he had saved the bear, the encounter had saved something within him, a part of his humanity that had been dulled by years of conflict and survival. As dawn approached, the soldier made a decision. He would leave the village at first light, returning to his duties with a renewed sense of purpose. But no matter where the road took him, he would carry the memory of the bear with him, a symbol of the courage it takes to act, the compassion it takes to connect, and the humility it takes to understand that we are all part of something greater than ourselves. And so, as the soldier left the village and began his journey back into the unknown, he carried with him more than his gear and memories of war. He carried a story of trust, of bravery, and of the unbreakable bond between man and nature. The bear he rescued on that cliff was no mere animal. It was a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even in the most dire moments, hope can be found. Perhaps we too can take a lesson from this soldier's journey. It reminds us that the greatest battles we fight are often the ones within ourselves. The choice to show kindness when it's easier to walk away, the courage to act when fear tries to hold us back, and the wisdom to recognize that we are all connected in ways we may never fully understand. As the sun rose higher, painting the sky with soft shades of gold, the soldier disappeared into the distance. Somewhere deep in the forest, the bear roamed free, a testament to the profound impact of one selfless act. And though their paths might never cross again, the bond they shared would remain, etched into the fabric of a story that would inspire anyone who heard it. Because in the end, it's not about the size of the act, but the heart behind it. And sometimes, one act of courage and compassion is enough to remind us of the goodness that still exists in the world. True courage lies in choosing kindness, even when the odds are against us.